Okay, so today is the torso flow. We're going to start by stretching our side. So we come back onto the back and you move your hips over to the right edge of your mat. We take the left leg off to the left and cross the right ankle over it. And then reaching overhead, we grab the right wrist and pull ourselves over to the left. So you see I'm sort of wiggling my head and shoulders over. And as always, we want to feel safe. We also want to feel the stretch. So the stretch is here, waist and ribs. All right, that's the area we're targeting. And we'll be here for 5 minutes. So position yourself so that you are relatively comfortable and you will be able to hold the position for the full 5 minutes. Okay, so let's switch sides. Take a moment in the middle and just feel both sides of your body. So I can feel not only in my side, but also down here in my low back. I can feel the after effect of that stretch. I can even feel it down in my SI joint. So a little bit lower where, you know, what becomes your tailbone, the sacrum. I can feel it down in that joint. And this is an area where I've been having some issues lately. And so that posture stressed those tissues, and I can feel that as I come out of the posture. I didn't feel that while I was doing the pose. I felt just my side here. So again, these are the types of things that are interesting to note as we do yin. And if you're really young, if you're in your 20s or 30s, you may not feel anything, and that's great. Perfect. Good. Keep going. As you get a little older, you might start to feel things, or if you have injuries or just whatever, you might feel stuff in your body. Let's come over to the other side. So that's part of the reason why we do what we call the rebound, is we, just before we rush off to do the next thing, you know, this is how the human mind is kind of wired. Most of us are wired, is just to always be very future oriented. And we often try and recreate in the future something pleasant from the past. So we're often, if you look at your future plans, they are very often trying to recreate an experience that you had in the past that you enjoyed, or projecting and, you know, imagining. Maybe you've never lived in a mansion, but you have plans to one day live in a mansion, and you think that that would be very enjoyable. And so you make all these plans. Interestingly, at least in my own experience, and I think in the experience of many other humans as well, those plans, you know, you might think it's great, be great to live in a mansion, or whatever it might be, and you get what it is that you thought would be great. Maybe you think it'd be great to be in love with a certain person, to be in a relationship with that person. Maybe you think it'd be great to purchase a certain appliance or a piece of clothing, and you imagine how sexy you'll look or how people will compliment you or whatever it is. In my experience, I've gotten at least some of the things that I've gone after in my life. A lot of things, actually. I've been able to acquire those things, and very often it's not what you think. It doesn't bring you that deep sense of satisfaction and joy and what you're really hoping. I would say by the time I was out of my 20s, I had already seen through that, and I kind of at that point realized that the things I was planning, the things I was hoping to make happen, that even if I got them, it didn't mean I would feel a deep sense of satisfaction or joy. That I very well may get what I'm after. And not only might it not bring me joy or satisfaction, it might actually be a nightmare. I've had that happen too. Now, maybe I'm alone, it could be, but maybe you can relate. Maybe you've had that where, again, it could be an object, it could be an experience, it could be a person, you know, getting into a relationship with somebody, you think, oh, wow, they're so hot, they're so attractive. It would be so amazing to be in a relationship with them. And then you get in a relationship with them, and then you find out they're a narcissist, and it's actually a nightmare. So it's interesting. It's interesting the things that we often assume will bring us joy or bring us happiness, whether or not they do or not. So this is one of the reasons why in spirituality and in yoga, the present moment is emphasized. When we take our minds out of jumping into the future, right? The next pose. What's the next pose going to be? What's the next thing I have to do? And we just really come into this moment. There's a certain kind of power that comes from that, kind of dropping the future in the past and really coming into the present fully and completely, without resistance, without expectation. And that's what the rebound is about. That's often what we're doing at the beginning of the flow class on Mondays, when we're just sort of just trying to take a moment before we jump around and we try and do all this stuff with our body. Let's just take a moment. Let's just relax for a moment. Let's just be for a moment. So one spiritual teacher I admire, he put it this way: everything in spirituality is ultimately about stillness and silence. So he said, all the talking I do, all the meditation, everything is ultimately just about getting you to be still and be quiet. So that's really kind of what our rebound is about. We come out of it, we take a moment to just really be in our experience, whatever that is. So let's do that now. So on that side, I didn't really feel a lot of physical sensation. So often when that's the case, I'll just begin to check in more mentally and emotionally, right? If there's not something physically going on, then, okay, what am I actually feeling emotionally? And I know that might sound odd, but sometimes when we check in, we actually will notice I feel really tense, or I feel sad, or I feel depressed. We might be surprised by the fact that we're actually sort of carrying an emotional weight around with us. And so, again, just taking a moment, how am I feeling? Sometimes we're actually surprised. And then we might notice that actually I snapped at my partner this morning because I was feeling this weight, this sadness, or this pressure, or this anxiety. Or I wasn't very friendly to the checkout person at the gas station, or whatever it is. We might notice that how we're feeling is very much affecting how we're going about our day. And that might actually explain how we've been, why we've had certain interactions with people. All right, let's bring our legs in. We'll give them a little squeeze, shake it out a bit. And then we will go ahead and hinge up to seated. Remember, the hinge helps us to stabilize our joints. This is the reason why we do it in that particular way. Now we'll do a butterfly. So soles of feet together. We push the feet out. So we're trying to affect our backside of our body. So again, this is about the torso. So feet out. Very often when I teach this live, there'll be someone in the class who insists on doing this. So I can't see you out there, but I hope none of you are doing this. This is a groin stretch. It feels very good for me right now. It feels good to stretch my groin. All right, but the posture is this, because this is focused more on our back, okay? So feet out, and then we relax forward and down. Now feel free to support the knees. So I mentioned the blocks earlier. This is another place where they can come in really handy. Haven't talked about this in a while, so I'm going to talk about this today since we're using the blocks. Okay, so again, some people, when they do this and their knees drop, you can see my knees are in the air. So you should be in the posture, because I've started the timer. So you want to be doing the posture. I'm just going to talk about this, talk shop. So if this relates to you, then great, listen up. If not, then just continue with your pose. So my knees are in the air. You can clearly see that. I can try pushing them down. They're not going to go down. I've been stretching for years and years and years. This is not muscle tension. This is the shape of my bones, okay? If my muscles were at their limit, this would hurt. I would be very sensitive. I'd be like, ooh, 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 don't do that. Okay, that's when our muscles are taught like that. We instinctively feel, oh, ooh, don't. Okay, so the fact that I can bounce them like this, it's not my muscles that are tight. This has nothing to do with muscle tension. This is the shape of my bones. It's not going to change. Okay, that's not going to change. I can do yoga all day long, every day, not going to change. So my knees are in the air. I don't feel any sort of discomfort at all. However, if you are someone with muscle tension, if doing that you're like, ooh, 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 don't, you feel like your muscle's going to rip, right? When you're doing that, then for you, this might make a lot of sense, because now you're getting rid of that edginess, that tension there. That it's not necessary. We're not stretching the groin today. So this is a great way to alleviate that, to do it like this. The other area where some people might feel discomfort or a little unsafe is in their back. So if they have spine injuries, back injuries, maybe you pulled a muscle in your back even, then coming forward like this can be feel a little too intense, especially for 5 minutes. So you often hear me talk about you can put blocks under your forearms. That looks like this. You're just adding a little bit of support. Okay. And then I've also mentioned forehead. So that would look like this. Once again, just putting a little bit of the weight instead of just gravity pulling my head forward. The head's very heavy. So instead of just letting gravity take hold of my upper body and pull my head down, I add a little bit of support. Now, anytime I talk about the supports, I also like to mention that please only use them if you need them. We're not trying to make ourselves super comfy. Unlike restorative yoga, where I really think comfort is king in restorative. You really need to take the time to make yourself really, really comfortable. Here we're not doing that. Here we are okay with a little bit of discomfort, because oftentimes stretching and exercising, which is yin is a kind of exercise, stretching and exercising usually comes with some discomfort. It's just kind of the way that it is. So unfortunately, there are people out there teaching what they call yin yoga, and what they're really teaching is restorative yoga. And I think the reason for this is yin has gained a lot of popularity recently. So in order to have people pay attention to you, you call what you're doing yin yoga, but you may not have had any training, and so then you're not really teaching yin as it's meant to be taught. So yin yoga postures can be very uncomfortable, and that can just be the way that it is for some people some of the time. We're not trying to be super comfy here. All right, let's go ahead and come on out of that. We'll do another posture. Take those legs straight. Same area, we're targeting the back here. And so we come forward and down. Again, blocks under the forearms, under the forehead as necessary. Okay? Okay, so another rebound. Make our way back onto the back and just take it all in. So I'm reporting on what I'm experiencing because it may be helpful for you to understand what I'm talking about and what's going on. So surprisingly, coming out of that, I didn't feel much of anything. I was expecting to feel a lot. While I was doing the pose, I actually felt this side, the left side of my SI joint. So I felt kind of my hip and other parts of my hip as I was stretching, even though it wasn't targeting the hip, I was targeting my spine. But the whole body is interrelated, and the legs very much affect the spine. So we were targeting the torso, the back, the spine, but the whole time I was feeling my SI joint on the left side, which is interesting because I felt the right side in the banana. So again, a lot of what yoga teaches is balance. If we have both sides balanced, then we're not going to feel pain, we're not going to feel discomfort. So what I'm likely feeling is there's some sort of imbalance with my SI joint. What I might do is try and set an appointment with my chiropractor and have her adjust me next week. That may take care of the problem. Stretching today may also take care of the problem. Let's bring the legs in, give them a little squeeze. And then when ready, we hinge on up to seated for our next set. So this is the half dragonfly, a challenging posture for many, myself included. Okay, so this is by no means easy or comfortable. It's not really meant to be. Some people will want to sit on something. Also feel free to bend the knees if necessary to do this posture today. Okay, so there's not a rule that says the legs need to be straight. That is usually how we start though. Okay, so legs are straight. I'm going to fold over my left leg. Now you'll see I'm holding the foot. I am not pulling. Okay, I'm just holding myself in place. There is a difference. Because if I just do this, I'm just going to roll back to center. That's not the stretch. The stretch is here. Okay, so right waist and ribs. So holding here, I can create that stretch. All right, and if that's not enough, I can roll my shoulder back. Okay, stacking the shoulders like that. Now I feel more stretch. Okay, take your time. Again, you might pause for a moment. I'm definitely feeling that stretch in my right waist and ribs, but again, true to muscle stretching, it dissipates super quickly, and that's one of the qualities that the muscles tend to have. We might feel strong sensation while they're working, while they're stretching, and then once we release, sensation goes away. You may feel soreness or stiffness later, or even pain, depending on what you did. But generally speaking, once you release, the muscles return to their normal state. Joints are different. Okay, so other side, same thing. This is called half dragonfly. Again, some of you will be able to do it like this. I didn't mention the strap. By all means, you could use a strap. By all means, you can bend this knee if necessary. And honestly, this leg can do almost whatever it wants to do. This is what I recommend, but if you want to bend that knee or do something else with that leg, that's fine. We're looking for the stretch here, so we need to, again, really focus on what the objective in today's class is, which is the torso. So we're trying to stretch these muscles in our torso here, okay? Okay, let's unwind and rebound for a moment. So I was feeling a just kind of generalized sensitivity in my spine and back for the most part. I can also feel a little bit of the residual sensation in my hips there. As I laid back, I heard some of the joints in my spine just cracking, and usually that's a good sign. That means that fixation in the joints has been released. That's oftentimes is what that cracking sound is release of fixation. All right, let's get into our last set. So we bring our legs in, move around a bit. I'm definitely feeling the effects in my back at this point. So first couple of sets, I didn't really feel much. Now I'm definitely feeling it. And again, not a bad thing. Okay, not a bad thing. Very often the areas where we're going to feel the most sensation are the areas that will be served the most by what you did. Okay, so hands under hips, we extend those legs, head and neck, exhale lower, and then we come on up to seated, okay? All right. Now we use the blocks. So again, I hope you have some of these. If not, I'll encourage you to purchase two. I would get two. Don't need to be expensive. I think they even sell these at Walmart and Target now, on Amazon, of course. Used to be like a specialty item. You know, you needed to be a hippie at some smoke shop or something to find this stuff. Now it's not like that. You can get them anywhere, okay? So yoga blocks don't need to be expensive. Just make sure they're not too soft, okay? So we're going to take one and place it behind our back, basically between the shoulder blades. Exactly how you place it, you know, that's going to be up to you, okay? I don't recommend that, but you know, who knows? But this even I think is a little bit something like this, or you know, like that. So it just kind of depends on your body, how you're going to position it, basically between the shoulder blades. And then one goes behind our head. So I don't know, as I lay back, exactly where I'm going to land. I'm just guesstimating. But that works pretty good for me. I might lower this one a little bit, bring it down a little bit. We'll see how that feels. This is a supported fish. Now what we're targeting today is right here, the front of the chest. It's called the pectoralis, and then the anterior deltoid. Now a lot of people, when they first come into this position, they try doing this, and this is not going to be effective in my opinion, because I don't feel any stretch here. Maybe you do, so that's fine if you do. But generally, these muscles start to get stretched when our arms are at about shoulder height. So there are three positions I recommend. This I call a T, this I call a Y, and elbows bent I call a W. So any one of those arm positions, I'm going to do the Y today. That seems to be the most effective for me. Okay, so we're here, we're stretching the front of the chest, and this is ultimately optional. So if you want, you can eliminate the block from behind your head as long as your neck feels okay with that. Okay, everyone, take your time. Gradually make your way out onto your back. We have one more posture in this set. Okay, so we're coming back onto our back. This is called a supported bridge. Knees are bent, feet on the ground. I want to lift my hips pretty much as high as they'll go, and I have 3 choices, again, in terms of the size. And you can even stack blocks. I'm going to choose the high position for me, but you choose the one that makes sense for your body. Okay, resting the pelvis on the block. And then once I'm in position, I'm looking for a stretch here. This is called your rectus abdominis. Okay, so I don't feel it. So what I'll begin to do is straighten out my legs. Now I feel it. Okay, the other thing I can do is extend my arms up overhead. Now I feel it even more. If you're not feeling it and your arms and legs are straight, try raising your block up or just playing with the positioning of your pelvis. What's happening here is the rectus abdominis extends from your pubic bone up to your ribs. So the more that your pubic bone points toward your toes and your lowest ribs pull toward your chin, then the more stretch you're going to get. That's just the basic biomechanics of it, okay? Now, one thing I do want to mention here is I do talk about the importance of feeling this stretch, okay? And that is absolutely true. When we come into pose, we want to be sure, we want to verify we feel the stretch. I will say, though, at this stage or at this point in being in this posture, I no longer feel the stretch in the front of my abdomen. The thing I'm feeling the most actually is in my back. Now, so this is a back bend, and we do want to be sure that this is within the range of what we sense is safe for our body. So this is within the range of what I sense is safe for me. But I've been doing yoga a long time. I'm a trained teacher in several different traditions and styles of yoga. So what I feel safe with may not be the same thing that you feel safe with, okay? So I'm feeling a lot of sensation. You might even say pain. Now, again, as I've talked about in the past, oftentimes healing begins with uncomfortable or even painful sensations. So that's where I am with things. As I've spoke about in prior classes, my back's not 100% right now. I kind of hurt it over the summer. And again, I have no idea how I did that. I didn't do anything particularly dangerous or bad. I didn't wasn't stressing it out or doing anything particularly unusual. It just ended up in a lot of pain one day. So I'm still recovering from that, and recovery, at least in my age, but I think from an injury like that, almost at any age, it's just going to take some time. So this is part of how I heal myself, is I bring my body into positions where the tissues are stressed gently, and then I allow them to be stressed, because living organisms generally respond to stress by what's called adaptation. So living things generally get stronger when stressed in a sane way. Very often we actually get weaker and we don't heal when there is a lack of stress. So a lot of chronic injuries are like this. Okay, let's go ahead and take our time. So I'm going to be very sensitive. I'm going to take my time trying to get out of this so that my back, it doesn't hurt too much. It doesn't seize up. I don't get a muscle spasm, which can happen if you're too aggressive with coming out of things. We don't want to counter stretch right away. So you notice my knees are bent. I just drop them in. That's called constructive rest. That's a great way to come out of a back bend. I'm just going to relax here for a moment. I can feel the tissues relaxing. Again, they were stressed, and now they're beginning to relax a little bit. That's good. And then after they relax, if I want, I can take my legs out straight completely. After that, then I can counter stretch. And again, I'm really feeling it in my back. And again, I'm really happy about that. So it's, again, my hope that today's class, along with other things I'm doing, are part of the way that I get my back pain-free again, so that there's no pain in my back. I can move completely freely without any pain. I'm pretty much, the pain that's there isn't stopping me from doing anything. So I'm teaching yoga, I'm doing lots of hard postures, I'm doing back bends. But it's just there, and I know that I want to be pain-free, okay? All right, so when you're ready, let's unwind onto the back. If you can, set a timer for 6 minutes and set the intention to let your body be still for the next 6 minutes.